What's up, YouTube? So we're going to be talking about how to heal somebody with energy. And this is really, really interesting because if you're one of those people like who come to our retreats often, we'll get people who, I do Reiki, I've studied this healing modality, I do sound healing, or I learned yoga, or I learned some kind of crystal healing, whatever it is. And I want to really take that to the next level so that, when people come to work with me and they come for one of my sessions, that I can take that to the next level and profoundly change their lives. So we're going to be talking about two things in this video that will not only get your people better outcomes, but do it consistently and make it a whole lot simpler for you so that it's not, should I use Reiki or when's the time to use shamanism? Because all of these healing modalities are valid in their own way. And the most important thing is actually, well, let's get into it and we'll tell you what the most important thing is. Alright, so that was enough of a tease. The single most important thing that when you're healing somebody else is not the modality you use, whether, like I said, whether that's Reiki or yoga or whatever, they all have validity in their own way. But the single most important thing is that you actually find the wholeness within yourself first, and that you can see whoever it is you're working in their whole state and hold a space longer than they can hold the state of a problem. So whether they come to you and they say I'm sick, or they're mentally sick because they can't make enough money, or their relationship's screwed up in some way, and whatever is causing them all this undue stress and things like that, is you have to be within your inside yourself, not sucked into their story, into their state, into their problem, and stay strong enough within your wholeness that you can see them as whole. Now, one of the interesting things that happens as we take people on these guided shamanic experiences and they go up the levels of consciousness, eventually what you discover, and I'm not telling you what to believe, just sharing what my personal experience is, you eventually realize that it's all one, we're all creating our own reality, and that essentially reality is this illusory state. So if you hold yourself in a state where you see your patient as sick because they tell you they're sick, then you're going to actually mentally perpetuate that. And so it doesn't really matter whether you do Reiki or yoga. If you see a sick person as sick, they're only going to get sicker. And so one of the things you have to be able to do is to tune yourself in a deep state of clarity so you can see them in their wholeness and see what it is that they could become, and to be able to hold that state now, even though that's not what's actually externally expressed. And what you'll find is the more dominant of the two realities, so if you can hold your clarity and just knowing they're healed stronger than they can hold, oh, everything's screwed up, everything's falling apart, they will conform to your reality because that's the energy you send out over and over consistently. Now, admittedly, this is obviously trickier depending on the type of person. Some people this is really easy for. They're not very attached to their story. They'll let it go easily. Other people are fucking hung up on that shit, and they'll tell you every reason why the last 20 years have been so hard and why victimy. And our culture really perpetuates this, because I'm sure you know somebody who's been in therapy who tells you every day that their mother screwed up and their father screwed up and why they were neglected as a kid, but they've been going to therapy for 20 years and they still have the same problems they talk about every day. So people love to perpetuate that victim-y kind of mentality in our culture. And as a healer, this is a real enemy, because if you buy into that victim-y thing and don't see how they're creating the reality and don't hold that wholeness, you will join them in their pity party and ultimately not help that person recover. Now, the second thing, and this is equally key, because a lot of the healers I know are very bad at business, and what this means is they set up their business in a way that it actually is counterproductive for clients. And what I mean by that is I see more often than not, in really simple terms, is selling a one-on-one session or a donate. So you come to like a little drum circle or something like that, and you go there and you want to get the people these amazing results and you want them to heal and transform. But the reality is, for many of those people, they probably need 5 or even 10 sessions to experience the real benefit. And so a lot of times what people do is they offer this one session and they really have no way for people to escalate them. And it's often because many of the healers I know feel very uncomfortable with charging money for what they do. And there's often this sense of like, I wish I could just give it away for free. I don't even want to deal with money. It almost feels icky to charge for it. The problem in that sort of mentality is that people will come for one session, leave, and never come back. And if they had just gone for a few more sessions, they could have been changed and transformed for life, because repetition is a necessary part of everything, right? Like when you learned how to bike, there was ride a bike, there was repetition. When you learned how to drive a car, there was repetition. When you learned how to think the way you thought, there was repetition. And so it's really no different in any sort of healing modality. It's very, very rare, other than I've seen in some peak shamanic states where somebody instantly is transformed from something for life. More often than not, it's through those repetitions. And so one of the simple ways that you can change the way you do is simply give people a way to offer packages where they can actually get that full healing and the result, and sell the results based of it, rather than charging per hour or donate after that. Because if you don't get the business side of it right, if you don't get the offer right, what happens is people just come for a lot of one and done sessions, and that's bad for you financially, but it's even worse for the clients, because almost nobody will get the full and complete outcome from just seeing you for 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. So if you want to take your healing powers to the next level, you also have to get the business side of it right, because otherwise you're going to just set yourself up for clients to lose, which is no good for them. And by the way, even the real world kind of medical healing modalities all use this same principle, which is the patient has to believe it themselves, which is why it's necessary for you to hold space. So really interesting study they did. There was a doctor who wasn't really sure whether his arthroscopic knee surgery was making a real difference. And I don't know the full details of what one does in arthroscopic surgery, but he basically set up 3 variations. Patient 1, he gave the full knee surgery to. Second one, he gave him the anesthetic, knocked him out, and did about half of the stuff he would normally do. And then the third patient, he simply gave him the anesthetic, knocked him out, put a little cut in their knee so they would wake up believing that they had just had surgery, but not actually having done anything other than just made a little incision. And he found that regardless of which variation of the experiment he did, the average person healed for about 4 months. And so much of the healing is getting your person to be able to see it, which is why it's so necessary for you to hold that wholeness within yourself, because eventually the longer you can do that and the more powerfully you can do that, the more quickly you'll find that your love will literally transform and pull them into that healed state. And they will just magically get better, even though they won't necessarily understand that it is you who have made all the magic happen. It's a thankless job that way, but that's how it is. Those are the 2 big things, is to really, really hold that state of wholeness regardless of your healing modality. And the second part of it is get the business right, because get really clear on what somebody needs to actually experience those results, and don't sell them anything less than that, because otherwise you're actually doing them a disservice as a healer. And so, this requires often getting over your own money stories and your own challenges about not feeling right about charging for it. But that's what it takes to really grow as a healer, and not a lot of people talk about that. And if you're interested in doing that, by the way, that's obviously one of the main things we teach people, is teaching healers how to actually build a real business around it, whether you want to do it in a retreat setting or on an online coaching model or face-to-face. It doesn't really matter. But if you want to be able to charge for it in a way where you feel good about it, but also that your clients are walking away and going, hey, that really changed my life, and I'm so appreciative that I met you. We have a free training below. It's about discovering your why, but as you discover your why and you get better at the business side of things, which is a lot about how we talk about in there, you'll find your healing powers get better, because people sign up for what they really, really need. So if that's you, click on the link below. You're just going to have to enter your name and email. It's totally free. I'll include a link in the video description, comments below, and of course, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from you guys. So lots of love, YouTube, and big rainbows to all my healers.